President Trump is launching an all-out trade war against China, Mexico, and Canada.
And we have to be treated well.
President Donald Trump, in his second week in office, promised to impose a 25% tariff on all goods entering the United States from Canada, a 10% tariff on Canadian energy, and a 10% tariff on all goods entering the U.S. from China. The Prime Minister of Canada didn't take too kindly to that, promising 25% tariffs on more than $100 billion of U.S. goods. But after talking it out with Trump, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau putting out this statement on social media saying that Canada will implement a border plan and there's a 30-day pause on proposed tariffs.
The trade relationship between the United States and Canada is one of the largest in the world. While both countries are key trading partners, the trade difference or trade balance can fluctuate based on various economic factors, including exchange rates, demand, and commodity prices. 1. Trade balance goods trade. The U.S. typically runs a goods trade deficit with Canada, meaning the U.S. imports more goods from Canada than it exports to Canada. This is largely due to imports of energy products such as crude oil, natural gas, and electricity, as well as automotive products. Services trade. The U.S. generally has a services trade surplus with Canada, meaning the U.S. exports more services, such as financial services, travel, and intellectual property, to Canada than it imports. Total trade volume. The total trade, goods and services, between the U.S. and Canada often exceeds $700 billion annually, with both imports and exports playing significant roles in their economies. Key differences. Energy. Canada is one of the largest suppliers of crude oil and natural gas to the United States. Automobiles and parts. There is significant trade in vehicles and automotive parts, particularly along the U.S.-Canada border. Agriculture. Both countries trade agricultural products, but the U.S. often exports more processed food products, while Canada exports raw agricultural products. Services. The U.S. services surplus includes sectors like travel, education, and financial services. Recent trends. Up to 2023, the U.S. has generally maintained a trade deficit in goods with Canada in recent years, while maintaining a trade surplus in services. The overall trade balance is often tilted in favor of Canada for goods but balanced out somewhat by the U.S.'s surplus in services.
I also spoke with Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada, and we had a good talk in the morning, but I did ask him a couple of questions, like, banks aren't allowed to do business in Canada. Canada is very tough. Canada is very, we're not treated well by Canada, and we have to be treated well. Banks are not, as an example, allowed. Did you know that American banks are not allowed to do business in Canada? Can you believe that? And that's one of many things, and we talked about it, and I think we'll win most of the subjects. But for some reason, a lot of things have been very unfair with Canada. And we can't let them take advantage of the U.S. They don't take our agricultural product for the most part. They don't take our cars. They make cars, but they basically don't take our cars. And, we don't need, and look, I think we're going to have another good conversation today. We're actually speaking at 3 o'clock again. But we don't need them to make our cars. We don't need them to give us lumber. We don't need them for agricultural products because we have all the agriculture we need. They don't take our agricultural product for the most part, our milk, dairy, etc. A little bit they do, but not much. We take theirs. And as far as cars are concerned, they took in a big percentage, almost 19% of the market. And, I wouldn't mind making our cars in the United States. So we have a problem there. I'd like to make our cars in the U.S. We don't need Canada to make our cars. With that being said, we're going to have another call at 3 o'clock. We had a call this morning. It was a pretty good call, I'd say.
On February 3, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump agreed to delay the implementation of 25% tariffs on Canadian imports for 30 days. This decision followed discussions with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who committed to enhancing border security measures to address issues such as organized crime, fentanyl trafficking, and money laundering. In exchange for the tariff delay, Canada agreed to deploy new technology and personnel along its border with the United States and launch cooperative efforts to combat organized crime, fentanyl smuggling, and money laundering. This development comes amid broader trade tensions between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. While the 30-day pause provides an opportunity for further negotiations, the situation remains dynamic, and the future of these tariffs will depend on the outcomes of ongoing discussions and the fulfillment of the agreed-upon commitment.
Talk with Mexico, and we had President Sheinbaum is a woman. I like her very much. We've had good relationships, but we have to stop fentanyl from coming in, whether I like somebody or not, and we have to stop the illegal aliens from coming in. I think we've lost 200,000 people on average a year for many years, much higher than the 100,000, could be even closer to 300,000. And they've agreed to put in 10,000 soldiers permanently, like forever, 10,000 soldiers at their side of the border and stop fentanyl and illegal aliens from coming into our country. They have a big incentive to do. Other than that, we've agreed to talk and consider various other things. We haven't agreed on tariffs.
The pause followed a similar move with Mexico that allows for a period of negotiation over drug smuggling and illegal immigration. The 10% tariff that Trump ordered on China is still set to go on into effect as scheduled on Tuesday. Those Trump planned to talk with Chinese President Xi Jinping in the next few days, while the trade war feared by investor companies and political leaders now seems less likely to erupt. That does not mean the drama over Trump's tariff threats has ended. Canada and Mexico bought some additional times, but Trump could easily renew his tariff and already plans to announce taxes on imports from European Union. All of that leaves the global economy uncertain about whether a crisis has been averted or if a possible catastrophe could still be coming in the weeks